Thousands upon thousands of movies came out in 2024, and I saw a whopping 29 of them. Some of them were bad. Most of them were good, though. I was really impressed with the movies that came out in 2024, so I thought, why not rank them and share with you what I thought were the best and worst movies of 2024. Yeah! Dumbest movie of the year, let's get it out of the way, Madam Web. You guys know that I'm a diehard Spider-Man fan. Just thinking about Spider-Man makes my stomach hurt. So a movie about a bunch of different Spider people, yeah, sign me up. And then unsign me up, because what the hell was that? The thing is, Madam Web wasn't even entertaining or uniquely bad. It didn't have any of those redeeming qualities. It was just bad, hot, sweaty, nasty bad. All the shots are dull and flat and lifeless, and the editing... the editing. Ooh. The conversations, too, they all felt so unnatural, and I don't know if it was a mix of a bad script and bad actors, or if it was just the script. Because, Dakota Johnson, she's okay. She's an okay actor. Sydney Sweeney's pretty good, so it had that going for it, but it just, all the characters were unlikable. And the conversations, too, they were just weird. The plot is very simple, like a lot of the other Spider-Man movies. It follows the same origin story, and it's entertaining every single time. I could rewatch the Spider-Man origin story a million times and still love it, and this was just so incoherently messy and boring. It's supposed to be entertaining. It's a new Spider-Person, new background, new origin story, and I just had to laugh at it. It was not good. Main character, Cassandra Webb. Yep, Webb with 2 B's. She had to legally change it when she became Madam Webb, I guess. Cassandra's a paramedic, and her best friend is one Ben Parker. Yep, Peter Parker's uncle. Cassandra has a near-death experience on the job. I think she was hit by a taxi or something. It's been basically a year since I've seen this movie, so I don't remember, and there's no way in hell I'm rewatching it again. So she almost has a near-death experience, and now she can, see the future, and she sees that her boss is gonna die, but doesn't do anything about it, and then he does die, and she's doing CPR, and it doesn't work. And this is, her canon event is her boss dying for some reason. So then she's going on the whole, with great powers comes great responsibility. I could have saved him, but I didn't. So, yeah, her origin story was her boss. Using these powers, she could see that the main villain, Ezekiel Sims, is going to kill a bunch of teen girls, because he can also see the future and can see that these girls are going to kill him. Cassandra essentially babysat the teen girls for the rest of the movie, and they just disobeyed her every single time. I don't think they listened to her once throughout this movie, except for when she taught them how to do CPR. I wonder if that's going to be an important plot point. The movie also just kind of lacks any cool action. My favorite part of Spider-Man movies is when they're swinging with webs, and I get that these characters don't really do that, but they could have made up for that with, I don't know, cool super strength, cool fight scenes, but no. Anytime there's any sort of action, Cassandra comes up with the most outlandish idea. At one point, the girls escape from, they don't escape, they just don't listen to Cassandra. They leave the forest and go to a diner and are dancing on the tables and stuff, and naturally Ezekiel finds them because he has eyes everywhere, and Cassandra crashes a taxi that she stole into the diner, only hitting Ezekiel and nobody else in the diner. What? Oh, and also she just continues to drive this taxi for the rest of the movie, even though it's stolen. Throughout the whole movie, this is what she drives, is this taxi. I like Dakota Johnson, I really do. I think she's really fun, but I don't think she's a very good actress, and that shines in this movie. Especially considering she didn't really like what she was working on. I don't think she had a single clue what was going on anytime they did a press interview, and I don't blame her. And then the guy that played the villain had all of his lines very badly redone. And I get that you do that in movies sometimes, but they did not do a good job on this one.
Teenagers now, but in the future, they have powers, and they will try to destroy me. I came from nothing, less than nothing. I will not give up everything I've built and have my life cut short.
The ending battle was very meh. It was the most action in the movie, so I guess that was nice, but It was boring. It happened on this big Pepsi sign, which I don't know if that's something that actually exists in New York, but I noticed it in one of the Spider-Man movies that I was rewatching the other day, and I felt like a fucking genius. And then, after the fight, they do CPR on Cassandra. That's right. That CPR thing that happened 2 times in the story that made it glaringly obvious that it was an important plot point. They did CPR. Who would have seen that coming? By the end of the movie, after the fight, she's blind and paralyzed because she fell in the water, which I think broke her spine, but they were also using, like, fireworks, so that could have also done it. I honestly don't remember. But I'm pretty sure she can, like, astral project or something, and that's how she fights, is, like, the girls will dress up in their tacky costumes, and she'll be like, ooh, I'm gonna fight with you. I don't know. She astral projected during the fight, too. She was, like, going from one girl to the next, grabbing them, all, like, Quicksilver style. It was crazy. I don't know why she can do that. I've talked a lot about the end of the movie, but the start of it is also just as bad. Cassandra's mom dies in the jungles of Peru because she's researching magical spiders. Huh? She's researching with Ezekiel, and he betrays her and, like, shoots her, I think. I'm pretty sure he shot her and, like, a whole bunch of other people because, yeah, there was other people in the jungle. There was a spider tribe. And they use this magical spider to get, like, spider powers. And so they save Cassandra's mom and, like, inject her with the spider serum to try and save her. But she dies anyways. So now the spider serum is in her baby. Anyways, Cassandra grows up in the foster system thinking that her mom hated her. And that's why she was in the jungle at 9 months pregnant. But then it's revealed that Cassandra was going to die in the womb anyways. So she was looking for the magical spider so she could save her daughter. So then Cassandra's all like, oh my god, my mom did love me. And that scene, too, is just really bad. It's supposed to be this big emotional revelation, but, like, it was bad. Canon Event being her boss aside, we haven't gotten the token with great power comes great responsibility line. She ends up in the jungle of Peru, like her mom. Don't know how she got there. Well, like I do, because she flew, but... Okay, Dr. Seuss. She flew there, but also she's, like, wanted for stealing the taxi, so I don't know how she got a plane after stealing a taxi. Maybe she stole the plane, too. And so she goes to the jungles of Peru and meets, like, a spider shaman, and he says to her... Fuck, I can't even remember what he says because it's just so stupid. When you take responsibility, great power will come. Great power will what? Power I hardly know her. What the fuck was that? So yeah, worst movie I saw in 2024. Also, the first movie I saw in 2024 was very boring. Very dull. Madam Web. Amelia. I didn't know anything about this movie until I watched the Golden Globes, and Zoe won a Golden Globe for it, and it won Best Musical over Wicked, and then, Sophia Gascon or something, did a really good speech on, like, being trans, so I figured, hey, this has to be a good movie, you know, some good representation for trans people, and then everybody started talking about it, and I realized, oh no, and then I watched it. Oh no! 13 Oscar nominations? Are you fucking serious right now? The movie begins with not the main character, the way movies usually do, unless it's the Lego Batman movie, because all important movies begin with a black screen. We're gonna ignore the fact that this movie does begin with a black screen and, like, 4 minutes of opening credits. Oh my god. The main character doesn't show up for, like, 15 minutes, and then they fucking kill her. So she's not in the last 5 minutes either. Emilia Perez is not the main character of Emilia Perez. Zoe Saldana is the main character in my eyes because she had a full, like, 5 minutes more screen time than Carla Sofia Gascon. Yeah, it's Carla Sofia. I accidentally called her Sofia Gascon earlier. But she also has better songs than the main character. Yeah, that's right, songs. This movie's a musical. I feel like it being a musical played into it being so tone deaf. Because there was some parts of the movies that I was actually getting invested, and I was like, okay, all right, I could see why people like this, and then they'd start singing, and it would just, like, ruin any sense of verisimilitude that this movie had, and I just had to, like, oh my god. Do you guys like my new chair? It rocks. El Mal being the best song from this movie is embarrassing. That song sucked. Some of the songs in this movie didn't suck. My favorite song was like, I think it was called Para or something, and it was actually bearable. I could sit through that, and I was like, okay, this is getting the story along without making it cheesy. And the song La Vaginoplasty? Huh? There's no way that's a real song. That's insane. Here's my interpretation of if award-winning singer-songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote La Vaginoplasty. I always wanted a vagina. I always wanted a vagina. I always wanted a vagina just like this. Shitty music aside, there is a plethora of other reasons why this movie sucked. The movie, about a trans cartel boss faking her own death so that she could transition, is full of stereotypes. Are we surprised? The big turning point of the movie is when she, sort of betters herself and ignores everything that she had done when she was a cartel boss. Like, if you want to be a better person, you also have to take accountability for what you did. And that she also pulls like a Miss Doubtfire and gaslights her ex-wife and kids into moving in with her so she could spend time with them. And when she is hanging out with the kids, it is really sweet. It also led to one of the most stereotypical songs out of the whole movie. At one point, she's tucking her children in bed. She's their aunt now. And the kid tells her that she smells like the child's father. And then goes on to list all these things that make her smell like the kid's father, including guacamole and mezcal. Quick rundown of all the external plot points that make this movie ass. The movie's set in Mexico, about Mexican characters. It stars one Mexican character as the side character. Everybody else is not Mexican. It's filmed in France, directed by a white French guy, and barely goes into Emilia Perez's identity as a trans woman. Emilia is a very shallow character, to the point that her transition does not feel like her. It just feels like an escape, a new identity, so that she doesn't have to be a cartel boss. At one point, she's yelling at her ex-wife and gets, like, physically violent, and then when she yells at her, it, like, goes down 5 octaves. And that just, like, that feeds into the stereotypes that trans women are dangerous to cis women. She was like, oh my god. For a movie that is about marginalized groups of people, the actors that they chose have both had horrendous pasts targeting marginalized people. Zoe Saldana signed a letter back in 2023 thanking Joe Biden for arming the Israeli occupation, and then called for a ceasefire only when Israeli filmmakers wanted a ceasefire. Resurfaced tweets, it's never good when you hear someone say resurfaced tweets, have shown Carla Sofia Gascon's blatant Islamophobia, horrible comments about George Floyd, and then I'm going to have to read it because it's long and fucking insane. More and more, the hashtag Oscars are looking like a ceremony for independent and protest films. I didn't know if I was watching an Afro-Korean festival, a Black Lives Matter demonstration, or the 8M. I wonder if she still feels that way now that her movie about a trans person is up for so many fucking Oscars. She did apologize, though, saying, quote, I'm going to have to read it again because it's more bullshit. I want to acknowledge the conversation around my past social media posts that have caused hurt. As someone in a marginalized community, cry me a fucking river. I know the suffering all too well, and I am deeply sorry for those I have caused pain. All my life, I have fought for a better world. I believe light will always triumph over darkness. Shut the fuck up! You do not get a pass. Don't do that. You don't get to be like, oh, I'm a marginalized person, so... No. You're mean. You're a nasty person at heart. Just because you're a marginalized person doesn't give you an excuse. If you know the suffering so well, you do not get to cast that suffering upon other people. And I know this comparison is like miles apart from what's actually happening in Palestine, but Avatar is literally about indigenous people being violently forced out of their homes. Zoe, are you listening to yourself right now? There's so much stereotyping and hypocrisy surrounding this whole movie. And, like, don't even get me started on the white French guy that directed it, who didn't do any research. There's so much more about this movie that just makes it so shitty. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it. There's so many trans and Mexican people that hate it and are boycotting it. There's not a single seat filled in Mexico going to watch Emilia Perez. And rightfully so. I'm so excited to talk about Emilia Perez more in my Oscars video. If you don't know it yet, I'm an absolute whore for a biopic. And then I watched Back to Black, and now I'm less a whore, more a harlot. I should have known that a movie directed by Sam Taylor Johnson was gonna be ass. I didn't necessarily have a problem with Marissa Bella's portrayal of Amy Winehouse. She didn't look like her. I don't really listen to enough of Amy's music to know if she sounded like her. But if I was a bigger Amy Winehouse fan, I'm sure I would have been superbly angry at this casting. But my main anger lies with the portrayal of Amy Winehouse in this movie. Living a life riddled with addiction and eating disorders is a hard story to tell, and it doesn't make for a lighthearted biopic. But a lot of the time, biopics aren't lighthearted. Celebrities having a large sum of money while also being under scrutinizing pressure from the public often leads to them turning to drugs. And a lot of the times, addiction in celebrities has been retold in books and biopics. And yet, despite Back to Black being R-rated, it still managed to water down just how much Amy Winehouse suffered. The movie feels a lot more like a romance movie than a biopic, with a lot of it being focused around her relationship with Blake Fielder Civil. The movie revolves a lot around her infatuation with Blake, her heartbreak, and even her eventual death sort of is shown to tie into Blake, with a report at the end asking her how she feels about Blake having a child with a new woman. Of course, her relationship with Blake did inspire her most well-known and, dare I say, most influential album of the 21st century, Back to Black. But showing this album being recorded was close to null in this movie. For a movie about a musician, there was a shockingly small amount of music. The film barely explores her songwriting process, the depth of her lyrics, or how her talent set her apart from other people. One of the most glaring exclusions of the movie is the role of her producer, Mark Ronson, who played a large part in the production of Back to Black. He gets name-dropped like once, but according to the Rolling Stones article I read, Sam Taylor Johnson chose to exclude him because he didn't play into the toxic romance. That directing decision just goes to show how little this movie actually cares about Amy Winehouse. Excluding somebody that played such a large role in Amy Winehouse's career just because it doesn't fit into the romantically tragic love story. The narrative that this movie tried so hard to push absolutely flattened Amy as a person and turned her into this self-destructive, love-stricken caricature. Important qualities of her, like her humor and wit, were barely shown, both qualities that made her very impressionable to her audience. Along with skimming over her as a person, the movie also skims over all of her struggles. It hints at her eating disorder and briefly touches on her substance abuse in a way that makes it feel like a shallow plot point rather than something that she struggled with continuously. Blake is similarly one-dimensional, making him seem like this bad boy that Amy can't help but be drawn towards. Although the film does acknowledge that he was a bad influence on her, it still romanticizes their relationship in a way that, as Sam Taylor Johnson wanted it, makes it look like this epic doomed love story instead of this toxic relationship that it was. Her father Mitch is also poorly portrayed. He's been criticized time and time again for enabling Amy's self-destructive behavior and for profiting off of her. The 2015 documentary Amy portrayed him as a person that downplayed her issues, profited off of her success, and pushed her to perform when she wasn't well. And Mitch has said that he doesn't like this documentary. I wonder why. Back to Black portrays Mitch in a much more sympathetic lens, showing him as the only person that tried to help Amy. The film also sort of implies that Amy got into hard drugs on her own and wasn't introduced to them by Blake, which conflicts with many widely known accounts. It doesn't show how Amy's mental health deteriorated, it doesn't show how fame amplified her struggles, and it doesn't show how people failed to help her. Rather than offering an emotional and meaningful depiction of her eating disorder and addiction struggles, the movie just kind of throws them around sporadically. There's no sense of a real person in this movie, and just like the rest of it, the ending is also lazy and cliche. After her Grammy win, the movie ends with her moving into a new house and turning a new leaf. But as I said earlier, there's paparazzi outside her house, and they ask what she thinks about Blake having a child with another woman. She'd expressed interest throughout the movie in having her own child, and this sort of gives the impression that she died because of this, and not because she dealt with substance abuse and addiction. Overall, the movie fails to do any justice to the legacy that Amy left behind, and instead turns her story into one of a melodramatic romance.
Illumination, illumination.
Illumination is so irrelevant and ass that at this point, all they can do is make sequels. Yeah, I'm talking Despicable Me 4. I did watch this. The first 3 Despicable Me movies were not bad. I enjoyed them. I was really scared of the purple minions in the second one, I'm not gonna lie. Anytime I was in the dark or near a forest, I would shit my pants thinking that the purple minions were to come get me. I don't know if it's just the nostalgia talking, but I did enjoy the first 3. I felt like they were telling a story, they connected to each other well, but the fourth one just felt so out of place. I don't know if maybe 10 years from now I'll look back and think, oh my god, the fourth Despicable Me movie was perfect. But now it was bad. Gru has a son now named Gru Jr. Yep. And the bad guy is trying to take his kid and turn him evil, but the kid already doesn't like him. And then the movie ends with the kid liking him. The end. Yay! Happily ever after. There is a tennis scene, and I did play the Challengers soundtrack over it because I'm pretty sure I saw this after I saw Challengers for like the third or second time. And that made it entertaining, but it was still a dumb movie. A lot of animation studios just keep falling back on their animated series because it's safe and they know people like them. Bob Iger from Disney literally said they're going to produce less original films in the future and make more sequels. Which is just lazy if you ask me. I loved Luca. I'm excited for Elio. Wish was dumb. I didn't even watch that. But, like, I don't know. The most recent original film that Illumination made was that Migration film. Who watched that? Putting actual effort into stories can go a long way. You know, if they had put actual effort into Migration, I'm sure the movie would have been great. Disney put a lot of effort into Frozen 2, and it was good. Moana 2 apparently is set up for the third one. Zootopia 2? They didn't even have to write that. It was already written for them. Yes, it is based off the abortion JFK comic. And don't even get me started on Toy Story 5. Why do we need a fifth one? As much as Despicable Me 4 was already completely unneeded, it gets to a point that a series is so sapped up that they just can't make any more. I am begging you, don't make any more Despicable Me movies. Please. I think Despicable Me was a perfectly fine movie and a great ending to the series, as well as Toy Story 3. But they just keep dragging them on, and it ruins the story. Illumination has not gotten that point, though, because they're making a third Minion movie, a third Sing movie, and a third Secret Life of Pets. Stop it with the sequels and threequels! Speaking of sequels, Godzilla x Kong was fine, I guess. I didn't really want to watch this. My brother was kind of obsessed with Godzilla Kong for whatever reason, and this was the movie that we watched on Christmas morning. I don't know what action movie Godzilla x Kong is categorized as, but it's just like, I don't know if I just sound like crazy, but there's certain movies, action movies, where they're like silly, and that just kind of ruins it. Like The Meg. I don't like The Meg. I don't know why. And I love sharks. The new Transformers movies, I love Transformers, but the new ones, they're silly. I don't like it. I can be silly. I like silly, but just like, sometimes I want an action movie to just be action, man. I did like Mothra, though. I fuck heavy with Mothra. I love kaijus. And I don't like the new Godzilla movies, to be frank, but I love kaiju stories. They're so cool. Shin Godzilla is so cool to me. That thing is freaky as hell. Kong Island was pretty dope, though. I did like that one. I like the world building. I like the storytelling. And those, like, bamboo spider things, and it steps down that guy's throat. Am I making that up? Like, I'm pretty sure that's a scene, but that is, like, ingrained in my brain. I did like that movie, but Godzilla x Kong was just meh. I didn't care for it. It ends with us more like shit ends with us. Get it? Because the movie was shit. I bet I'm the first person to ever make that joke. I bet nobody's ever made that joke before, and I bet it's hilarious. I heard the controversy surrounding this movie was going to make Colleen Hoover retire. Hold your applause. She's not retiring. Oh, God. Oh, God. Sorry. Just gotta wipe my tears away, crying at the fact that Colleen Hoover's going to still write. I'll get it out of the way. The movie was better than the book. Have I finished the book? No, I can't even get through the first chapter. But they're both as controversial as each other. I think the movie did a much better job of showing the struggles that come with staying in an abusive relationship. I thought that covering up the fact that the relationship was abusive until the end of the movie was a really interesting touch. And that, like, at the end, I was like, oh, I see what you did here. But at the same, like, it was a fine movie. The movie was fine. It's whatever. I think if the movie was redone, had nothing to do with It Ends With Us, was a completely new movie with completely new actors and a completely new script, and wasn't directed or produced by a man, because why was it directed or produced by a man in the first place? It could have been good. You know, there's something there. She microwaved a little bit. There's potential. There's potential for it to be good. And that potential was not uncovered in this movie, but there's something there. I just want to know what Colleen Hoover is smoking when she writes her books, because what kind of name is Ryle, Atlas, and Lily Blossom Bloom? Are you serious right now? Those are My Little Pony names. Overall, the movie wasn't that bad. The storyline was just stereotypical and not well done. The press and marketing around it was terribly done. And now everything with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, it makes me shake my head. You know, nothing was handled right in a movie when a movie about assault is directed by somebody that apparently assaulted one of the actresses.
Riley, it's okay. I'm Joy.
I absolutely loved the first Inside Out movie. My mom's a psychology teacher, and this is one of her favorite movies. She talks about it all the time. She's seen it like 30 times. And so I know like everything about that movie, all the ins and outs. So I was super excited about what they were going to do with the second one. I think there's so much potential with this movie to see how the little dudes grow as Riley grows. Like, there's so much potential, and it's so interesting. And Inside Out 2 just kind of smushed that potential. The first movie is so strong because of all of its emotional tones and the world building, but I feel like that's where the second one went wrong. I feel like a lot of the movie was really imbalanced. We saw a lot more outside of Riley this time around, and I feel like that kind of made everything happening inside Riley feel really rushed. But at the same time, everything happening inside didn't really reflect what was happening outside. Like, I felt a sense of disconnect. Her anxiety towards high school and the hockey team that she was on is like a huge plot point for the movie and has a lot to work off of. But it was overshadowed by everything else that was happening in the movie. The emotions got sucked up into the trash again the same way they did in the first one. The main five is gone, and now we're left with anxiety, embarrassment, ennui, and envy. All this rush was a big part of why I didn't feel the same connection to this movie as I did in the first one. The first one was slow-paced at some points, which was good because it helped people process the big emotions that they would feel throughout the movie. Bing Bong dies. We could process that. Joy's not feeling so joyful. We could process that. Riley running away and then coming back to her family. We can process that. But everything being so rushed in this movie doesn't give us time to reflect on everything that we're seeing and build that connection again. If this was intentionally done because the movie's about anxiety, then bravo on their end, but it just doesn't feel like it was done intentionally. It was a weak movie, and I felt disappointed about it, partially because of the pacing, and also because, well, I'm going to sound like a nerd. The first one I liked because of the psychology. There was actual things that had to do with psychology, and it was cool, and I felt like this movie had so much potential. I was so excited to go into it because I was like, man, how are they going to explore psychology? Was there going to be a Freud emotion? Was Riley going to have penis envy or something? But they just didn't do that. And so it kind of just like ruined the urethra moment that I had in the first one. I did enjoy the spin-off TV show that they did, like the Dream Productions one, because it had more to do with what was inside Riley's head and had to do with dreams, which is really interesting. But overall, I just wish the movie was stronger. I was waiting so long for the Craven movie to come out. I was craving it, if you will. And they pushed it back. And it was somehow still ass. Hey, Sony, riddle me this. How does it feel making 3 shitty Marvel movies in 1 year? Aaron Taylor Johnson did great. Are we surprised? He stole all the talent from his wife and ran with it. The action movies in this were really good. It just, like, I don't know what it is about a Sony movie other than Spider-Man. They just have bad aura. Sony has film rights of Spider-Man, and so they sort of have their own, like, cinematic universe where they show Spider-Man characters, like Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, Craven, but they don't ever actually show Spider-Man, which I'm not complaining. I'm not just here sucking on Sony's balls for Spider-Man. I like when they do spin-offs. I just wish they'd make the spin-offs good. Venom did well, so they made 3 of them. And we've already established that I'm not a fan of pointless threequels. Anyways, Craven opens with like a long action sequence. Like 8 minutes, I think, because I released the first 8 minutes on YouTube. And it was like this prison sequence. Thank God. Because that had me sat. And then they went on to this long-ass origin story. It felt weird having the origin story right in the middle instead of at the beginning. But you know what? Whatever. It would have been good if the acting wasn't ass.
Put the cards away now, Calypso. Think again, Calypso.
Calypso, look! Calypso? Calypso?
Calypso!
The other villains were cool, though. Christopher Abbott as Foreigner. I loved it. Hate to say it, that guy was dope. They had a Rhino, except he wasn't in a suit. He had, like, his, like, DNA was changed, so he actually turned into a Rhino when he unhooked his backpack. Sue me, that was cool. And then at the end, Kraven's brother turns into Chameleon, which is lore accurate. I had to Google that after because I was like, who the fuck is this guy? But yeah, there were so many villains. It was cool. I liked that part. I will say, though, even though I did like the concept of the Rhino, he did look really weird. Like, Sony's CGI type weird. So the strongest point of this movie was the action, which was really well done, but also done in the way that Sony action movies are. I'm still trying to figure out just what it is in Sony movies that make the action sequences so weird and poorly done. Because, like, Kraven and Venom, their budget was like $110 million, which isn't that far off from Spider-Man's, which was like $175. Maybe it is. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'm like a gobsmillionaire. But then, like, Madam Web was like 65 million or something. No, 80 million. 80 million. So, like, I'll give them an excuse. But it's just like, how are you going to have that budget and the sequences are still going to suck? They also had the same weird ADR issues that they had in Madam Web. Like, you think they learn? I was watching the movie in theater, big screen. I'm up at the top. I don't have my glasses on. I can't see shit. And I'm like, Calypso's face doesn't look right. So Calypso is played by Debussy. What's her name? Adriana Debussy or something. Or I'm just going to look Debussy. And she's a good actress. I like her. She did good. But at the end, her face is like low-key lopsided in her mouth. Think of like Super Babies or any of the like Beverly Hills Chihuahua movies. You know when they just make someone's mouth move? That's what they were doing. And it didn't look good.
My grandmother was kind of a mystic. She said it would heal whoever drank it in undreamed of ways. Look at what you became. Look at what you became.
Anyways, Kraven was not great. Its only redeeming qualities were the fight scenes and Aaron Taylor Johnson's abs. Sam Taylor Johnson, you can't handle all that.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I didn't love Gladiator 2, but I also didn't hate Gladiator 2. I sound like such a Debbie Downer. We're only 9 movies in, guys. I swear to God, they get good after this. I felt like it was unnecessary, but that's just on me hating sequels. I did get to look at Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal for like 2.5 hours. Never mind. Why are people always killing Pedro Pascal in movies? I watched the first Gladiator movie right before seeing this one, and I loved it. That one was so well done. I love when people are just good at what they do. Like Maximus just being a good fighter. I loved it. I love when he can just get up in the Coliseum and just kill everybody. And then I like that Lucius, who's Paul Mescal, wasn't good at being a gladiator. Like, he was okay at it, but he wasn't, like, absolutely demolishing everybody in the Coliseum. He had his faults, and I did appreciate that, too. The fight scenes, too, in this were, like, crazy, and not in a good way. Like, yes, the fight scenes were good, but also at one point someone rode in on a rhino. Are there rhinos in Greece?
Someone needs to teach this fucker geography. There's absolutely no denying that the Colosseum and Gladiator 2 are in Rome.
And then they filled the Colosseum with water. How did you do that? They brought sharks in the Colosseum. How did you do that? And I know it's not supposed to be realistic, but it's just like, how did you do that? It wasn't that crazy in the first one. Why were you doing all that? They're trying to overthrow the government again or something because Maximus dying in the first one didn't fix anything, which I kind of have mixed feelings about. Not making a second Gladiator movie would have kind of just solidified that Maximus fixed everything when he died. And that's not realistic. You know, someone dying for a cause doesn't immediately fix the cause. But I would have liked to think that maybe him dying fixed everything. It was kind of the same as, like, Attack on Titan, spoiler. At the end of Attack on Titan, Eren dies, and they're like, yeah, we fixed Eren. No, we didn't. We killed Eren and fixed everything. But then, no, they didn't, because then there's, like, war, and this girl stumbles across the tree, and then, like, all that crazy stuff. So it just goes to show that, like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, no happily ever after, which I kind of appreciated, but at the same time, I didn't want this movie. Denzel Washington was manipulating everybody into killing each other so he could be emperor. Ravi and Lucius wanted to fuck. They cut out my wife, May Calamawy. They cut out Denzel Washington's gay kiss. They cut out Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal kissing. And Scott Ridley is a weird name. He has made a lot of good movies, though, so one miss in my eyes isn't that big of a deal. It's worth giving it a watch, though. You know, it wasn't my cup of tea, but maybe it'll be yours. It was entertaining. And it was pretty cool. So, yes, Maximus, to answer your question, yes, I was entertained. Sometimes before I eat a meal with friends, I make them say grace, but instead of saying grace, we just thank Kristen Stewart for our meal. And that is because of Love Lies Bleeding. Love Lies Bleeding was violent, it was campy, it made me uncomfortable, and it was awesome. Kristen Stewart is a gym manager, and then Katie O'Brien, swole as fuck, starts going to the gym, and they are nasty!
I'm gonna stretch you. I just wanna see how far you can go.
Katie's character Jackie is on her way to, like, Las Vegas for a bodybuilding competition, and to this point in the movie, it feels normal. You know, as normal as, like, sapphic romance movies can be. I'm not homophobic, guys. I'm just saying that lesbian movies are crazy sometimes. But then, Kristen Stewart introduces her girlfriend to steroids, and it gets fucking bonkers. They move in together after a week, go figure, and Jackie just starts doing more and more steroids, and she turns into this, like, crazy rage monster, like your average steroid-filled gym bro. She grows and gets massive and kills people. She kills Kristen Stewart's brother, and Kristen Stewart's like, hey, I'm okay with that, because the brother was, like, abusing his wife. She kills the girl that was, like, blackmailing Kristen Stewart into a relationship, but not really. She crushes Kristen Stewart's dad, but doesn't kill him, and then the two run away together. I know that wasn't a movie review, and that was just, like, a poorly done, like, horribly done summary of Love Lies Bleeding, but I swear to God, I don't know how to talk about this movie, because it's just insane. Like, I can't give a review without just summarizing the movie, because it kind of just speaks for itself. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It was crazy. I watched Dune 2 back in, like, April. I was half asleep, and I acknowledged that, yeah, this movie was cool, but, like, whatever. And then I rewatched it the other day, and this shit's kind of gas when you're not falling asleep. I have no clue what's happening in any of the Dune movies ever, but I'm so entertained. I'm sure in, like, a while I'll start to understand it, but I just don't understand it. Why is his name Paul? Why does he have so much aura? When I walk into an aura battle and these two show up. Dune 2 maintains the same gorgeous cinematography and score that was established in the first one, and I heavily think this is going to go down in history as, like, one of the all-time best sci-fi series. Like, I want to be able to, in the future, talk to my kids about growing up watching Dune the way that my parents talked to me about growing up watching Star Wars. Florence Pugh shows up, and she's Timothée Chalamet's second choice again. His mom crashes out. I'm so scared of her every time she's in this movie. She's just, like, going crazy. They're showing close-ups of her baby, and I did not need to know what Anya Taylor-Joy looked like in utero. That made me uncomfortable every single time. And the fight scenes were awesome, man. I fuck with them heavy. May they knife queef and shudder, or whatever they said. My favorite part of the movie, both movies actually, is anytime any of the characters have to run in sand, because there's no way you can look cool when you're running in sand. Like, when they're sliding around and rolling around in the sand, it looks cool, but when they're running in the sand, it just looks stupid. Like, this is what it looks like. The movie was hella long, but paced in a way that it didn't feel hella long. Like, I acknowledged that the movie was going on for a long time, but I didn't need it to end. I was entertained. I liked it. Would have been ranked higher, though, if I had a worm popcorn bucket to put my dick into.
You must bounce on it. Crazy style.
I have never been both so bored and so entertained by a movie. The one thing I can think of more entertaining than Nosferatu is Nosferatu doing backflips at emo night to the song Gucci Gang.
Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. Spread their racks on new chain. My bitch love do cocaine. Ooh, I fuck a bitch, I forgot name. I can't buy me no wetter rain. Rather go and buy ball mains. Gucci gang, 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 Gucci gang.
Lily Rose Depp put her whole pussy into this movie. She was geeked the whole time. The movie was really long, really dragged out, and I was like getting antsy. I was waiting for this to end. And then Willem Dafoe said Hawktua, and I was invested again.
Then hearken to it.
Aaron Taylor Johnson did a good job playing a low-key misogynistic corpse fucker, and say what you will, but nobody had iPhone face. Like, yes, they're all beautiful, especially this guy, but they all had features that were unique enough that they looked like they fit into the time period. I think they did good. The cat was really cute. I do wish a lot more movies had cats. I do feel bad that it witnessed the freaky Count Orlok and Ellen bloodsucking scene at the end, but overall, that movie was hella campy. I wish it was as good as the edits, and the theater gave me a poster, so 5 stars. I didn't really love The Fall Guy. It felt like a movie that would be really good to watch on a red-eye flight, but it was really fun. Aaron Taylor Johnson, again, goddamn, give this guy a break. He needs to spend time with his kids and wife before she dies of old age. Sorry, oh my god, I'm being really mean. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson. He was in this. He did great. Ryan Gosling. Yes, Ryan Gosling. He was in this, and I actually got the hype. I got the Ryan Gosling hype. I watched Barbie, and I was like, sure, whatever, Ryan Gosling, I'm him, whatever. But then I watched this movie, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I get it now. He's cool. I'm an absolute sucker for movies that are about making movies, and that's what this movie was, basically, except crazier. And I liked it. I fuck with it heavy. Ryan Gosling was in his car crying to All Too Well Taylor's version, which is like my favorite Taylor Swift song. That's a lie. Mine is the All Too Well Taylor's version, 10-minute version. And I've probably done the same thing. The action was really good. There was chase scenes. The acting was good. There was lots of explosions. And the romance was, like, so whatever. The movie felt like one big thank you to stunt doubles who do amazing work on set. And I appreciate that. And your middle-aged parents will appreciate this movie too.
Yay!
If you ever need a reason not to trust a twink, Honora will give you one. Mikey Madison was amazing as Annie. The movie was so high-paced and energetic until the last scene. It was so entertaining. I was locked in. It also portrayed struggles that come with being a sex worker while also not dehumanizing sex workers. Annie's good at her job, she's treated well by her employers, and she's making a good amount of money. And then she meets Vanya, the twink I warned you about earlier. And this is when she starts to live out her fairy tale life. She's surrounded by drugs and alcohol and wealth and this guy that vaguely looks like Collins Key, until that twink's fuck-ass family ruins everything, and then she has to go back to living the normal life again. She fought to be married to Vanya, which, like, she was fighting for the good life, and not because she loved Vanya, because who are we kidding? Why would she love him? He was childish, immature, and annoying. And also, Vanya just didn't love Annie. I didn't feel like the love. I felt chemistry. I felt a connection, but I feel like that connection was, like, Vanya being connected to Annie's body and Annie being connected to living her dream life. So, like, they would have been happy together, but I don't think they loved each other for who they were. I did really like Igor as a character. In the same way that Emilia Perez, and no, I'm not comparing this to Emilia Perez, those movies are so different. In the same way that Emilia Perez has Emilia be the main character, I feel like Igor being the supporting actor kind of felt out of place. Like, yeah, he was, I think, in the movie more than Vanya, but he didn't really talk much, which that's probably just his character. But I appreciated him. I do feel like the movie kind of forced the narrative of Igor and Annie sort of falling in love. Like, they had enough chemistry that as soon as you saw Igor on screen looking at her, you were like, oh, okay, they're in love. But Annie just didn't like him, like, at all throughout the whole movie. Overall, the pacing was really good. It felt like one big R-rated baby sensory video with long nails and hair tinsels and fun lights. But my one issue with the whole movie was the ending scene. Vanya's forced by Mommy and Daddy to leave Annie, and she has to give back the ring. But Igor kept the ring, and he gives it back to her at the end. And the end is, like, a really important scene because the whole movie's been really fast-paced, and this sort of slows it down. And so my interpretation, and I believe a lot of people's interpretation of this scene, is that because he gives the ring back and Annie's sort of back in work mode, she thinks, oh, this is like an exchange. He's giving me the ring, I give him sex, because that's like how she worked before. Which, yeah, that kind of shows how she has to go back to that. But the whole the whole ending scene was silent. And I get that that was supposed to be artistic, but I feel like a movie, and specifically a scene where characters having sex, shouldn't be silent. I felt really uncomfortable because there was, like, no consent, which I get. Also, like, in sex work, there's, like, a lot of the times no consent. But I just, like, as soon as she was bouncing on that thing, I was like, I don't like it. Because the whole movie, she was like, Igor, you're going to rape me. Igor, you look like you have eyes. And then she, like, climbed into his lap and started having sex with him without being like, hey, thanks for the ring. I'm going to bounce on it crazy style. So that made me uncomfortable. But, like, I don't know. That was my only problem with it. Overall, I think it was a really good movie. Do I understand the messages behind the movie? No. Maybe there are no messages. Maybe it's just supposed to be an entertaining movie and I'm digging too deep into it. But it's deserved all the awards that it's gotten and has been nominated for. And I am very excited to see how it does at the Oscars. I don't really know how to feel about Close to You. I know that it was different from a lot of the other movies that I watched this year. And I liked that. I watched this because, well, A, I love Elliot Page, and B, after watching Emilia Perez, I was like, okay, I need a palate cleanser. I need to watch a movie about trans people that is an ass. And this did the job. It was a good movie. Elliot Page, boy oh boy, Elliot Page, plays a character named Sam. Of course his name is Sam.
This is America, Lois. Men have always run things, and there have never been any problems whatsoever. And don't say the economy or Iraq or income inequality or racism or Brett Kavanaugh or air pollution or Vietnam or slavery or Watergate or capitalism or Me Too or homelessness or police brutality or homophobia or Monica Lewinsky or school shootings or Native American genocide or Fox News or Tim Allen or climate change.
Not to call anybody out or anything. The movie opens with a devious backshot of Elliot's sleeper build on full display. And the movie also closes with that, so we got a little, like, back shot, sandwich. And then there's also, like, 4 full minutes of silence, which I kind of liked. I know, like, I was like, oh, you know, Nora ended silently, blah, blah, blah. There was no sex at the beginning of this movie. I wish there was between me and Elliot, but whatever. I liked the 4 minutes of silence. It's, they showed the house while it was quiet. And I liked that because they're showing, like, close-ups of stuff in the kitchen. Like, in Sam's house, he was living with, like, a friend. And they had little dinosaurs everywhere, and I thought that was really cute. But I think, like, one of my favorite things about this movie is how lived-in everything feels. Like, it just felt like they went to somebody's house and filmed instead of setting up a set. And they were like, oh, that vase has to be turned at a 180-degree angle and put 3 chrysanthemum in it. Like, everything felt really lived in this movie. And no matter the house, it just felt like they were like, oh, I'm going to call up my buddy and we're going to go film at his house. Like, I really appreciated that. After the 4 minutes of silence, though, they have a very weird conversation. And not, like, weird in, like, the sense that, like, what they were talking about was weird. It was just, like, in the way that when a movie's setting up, they just say random things to help you understand. Like, it opens with, I'm trying to remember, the roommate's like, how are you feeling? And he's like, I'm fine. And the roommate's like, yeah, well, you're putting a lot of jam on your bread, so I don't think you're fine. What does that have to do with anything? Maybe he just wanted a lot of jam on his bread. And he's like, yeah, I'm not fine. I have to go back and see my family after, like, 5 years. And, it's hard because I'm trans, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of information that nobody asked for. What if we just, like, fleshed it out a little bit? But, or spread it out a little bit. Throughout the whole movie, though, the conversations were both weird, but also really natural. So then there was parts where they were expanding on things the same way they did at the beginning that I didn't like, but then other parts of the movie where they just kind of, like, briefly mentioned things, and I was like, nice. I like that. And the reason the dialogue was so weird in this is because a lot of the movie was improvised. I did, at some parts, really like the improvisation because it made it feel more humane the same way that Clutter did. There was a lot of stuttering, which I liked, because I stutter a lot. But then other points, like, the conversations just felt weird. Like, he's having a conversation with this... Well, it just, like, it felt like... Oh my god, my chair's gonna break. What's that game? Hold on, I'll be back. What Remains of Edith Finch? My friend introduced me this game a couple weeks ago, but it reminded me of that in the sense that a lot of the movie was just going through and discovering things. So, like, in the game, when Edith Finch is, like, exploring how different family members died, this movie kind of, he had a conversation with like each family member. Actually, no, I think each family member, about how, when he left, how it affected them and how his transition affected them, which I thought was really interesting because it felt kind of like plotless, and I love those types of movies. Like, Juno feels kind of plotless. I know there is a plot, but, like, I don't have to, like, lock in, and it's enjoyable. Same with Breakfast Club. Like, it's just kind of exists. And so I liked that about this movie because it was just kind of like one big movie where he was having conversations with people. And I know that's not everybody's, like, type of movie, but I liked it, except for the fact that the conversations sometimes felt a little weird. Like, I wasn't really invested until the first time when the mom kind of, like, misgendered him, and then I felt like a pit open in my stomach, and I was like, oh my god, like, now I'm locked in. This is, like, that was really natural. Like, I feel like a lot of the times in movies with, like, trans characters, which there aren't very many, so I feel like I'm going off nothing. When they, like, misgender or dead name a character, it just feels very forced. But this like, it felt naturally unnatural. And so a lot of the movie was just about, like, talking about his transition, but then I keep, like, going away from my point and then back to it. He's having a conversation with his dad, but who I think is, like, received his transition better than his mom. But then his dad goes on this whole tangent about, like, oh, every time, you know, you were sad, I thought I was going to find you dead in the bathtub or have to, like, shove my fingers down your throat and carry you to the hospital. I'm like, whoa, buddy. What the? Which is, like, kind of makes sense the way that, like, dads just kind of, like, say shit sometimes. But I was like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. But, yeah. So, dialogue aside, I liked that. Union, oh my god, I just inhaled a piece of hair. Union Station jump scare. The movie started and I was like, why do I recognize this place? That's because I've stood right in, like, where the movie was filmed. And then he gets on a train. I'm like, why do I recognize this train? Oh my god, they're speaking French. This is a Via Rail from Toronto to Montreal. And it was a Via Rail from Toronto to Montreal. And I would know because I took that exact train. And then, like, they were showing the scenery, and it's an ugly train ride. It's nasty, expensive, ugly, shitty. And they're showing the scenes, and I'm like, damn, like, I, like, know where this is. I've literally been on this route before. So that was kind of like, damn, bro, what? And then he gets to his parents' house, and their cutlery is the same cutlery that I have, and the dishes are the same dishes that I have. And I was like, what the fuck? is this director watching me? What's going on right now? One of the big plot points is Sam reconnects with his high school girlfriend on the train, and her character's deaf, but like that's not just like who she is. Like they don't talk about her being deaf. She's just like, I don't know, she's just deaf. And I really appreciated that because it was really interesting to see a character who is deaf without the whole movie being about them being deaf. In the same way that, like, I don't know, like, this movie is about, like, Sam being trans, but, like, I don't know, just a movie where it's, the character isn't defined by what makes them different. So I really appreciated that for her character. I think, what was her name? Catherine. Her name's Catherine. And so they, like, had chemistry because they used to date, but they didn't really go that deep into it. I know a lot of people wished that they had gone into it, but I appreciated the not going into it because it just, like, showed that they never really got over each other. And she's married and has kids now. So when they get off the train, she's like, Sam, like, I can't talk to you. I have to go. Like, bye. But then Sam is escaping from his family and goes for a walk and finds the cafe that Catherine works at. And Catherine's like, oh, Sam, like, wait up, let's go for a walk. So they go for a walk a lot. But here's another pet peeve with the movie. The pacing is weird. He's with his family for, like, a day. But it keeps cutting back and forth between him with his family and him with Catherine, him with his family, him with Catherine. So I don't know if he just kept going to see Catherine or if they just, like, put the different segments of them hanging out together between him with his family. That's probably what it was, but it just felt weird. But, yeah. The movie ends, and he goes back home because he's like, I'm not gonna sit around with my sister's husband who's a transphobe just to make my family happy. I want to go back to Toronto because I'm happy there. And when I'm back in Toronto, I feel it. Anyways, so he goes back to Toronto, leaves his family behind. Rightfully so. I feel like he was really angry throughout a lot of the movie, but at the same time, like, maybe he's just on edge because his family, which, like, also rightfully so. So he goes back to Toronto, and he's like, Catherine, come with me. And she's like, I can't. But then, cut to, like, a couple weeks later, she's in Toronto. She left her, like, husband and kids for him, which, honestly, I'd do the same thing for Elliot Page. But, I don't know. That, I wish they'd fleshed out the romance a little bit more. But yeah, it was very different from everything that I saw this year. I really liked it. And I like how different it was. Earlier, when I said that Love Lies Bleeding was insane because it was sapphic, I stand by that. That's not the only crazy sapphic movie I watched this year. Because there's a certain amount of insanely nonsensical stupidity that you can fit into a sapphic movie that you just can't put into, like, an MLM movie. And Drive Away Dolls did that shit. Bottoms, Love Lies Bleeding, Drive Away Dolls, like, they're all insane. And it's so entertaining, and I love it. Margaret Qualley eats, per usual. Pedro Pascal dies, per usual. Miley Cyrus is there for some reason. Wish I'd gotten a jump scare because I'm so scared of her. Matt Damon was also there, which was a pleasant surprise. He plays, like, a homophobic senator. But the whole plot of the movie is he's, like, tracking down these girls because he slept with Miley Cyrus, who took, like, a mold of his dick somehow and made, like, a dildo.
Not me. I take cocks any day. Give me cocks all the time. I want cocks all over me.
And I don't know if it's just her, but, like, Pedro at the beginning had, like, a briefcase full of, like, molds of different, like, political figures' dicks. So Matt Damon, like, the whole movie is like, I gotta get that back. Like, it's too powerful if my dick's out there. Like Love Lies Bleeding, I have no clue what to say about this movie except explain, like, some of the plot line because it was just insane. Like, it was such an entertaining movie. It's, like, definitely one that I would whip out at a, like, hangout with friends. I had to watch it alone because I don't have any of those, and I was still entertained. So next time you are hanging out with your friends, put on this movie, please. It's so funny. Like, the PowerPoint transitions between the scenes, the, like, gay soccer team makeout circles, like, it's just, oh my god, this movie was so funny. And Coleman Domingo was there too. Like, it was insane. Like, you need to watch this movie. It was so good.
That's my line.
holding space for defying gravity or whatever. I'm in queer media. That's my line. I don't know. I saw Wicked 2 months late. I was spoiled so many times, and not to mention the play's been out for like years, and the books, and yet I still had no clue what was going on when I got into this movie because it's so long, and you can only spoil so much of that movie. So I was still entertained when I was watching the movie. Cynthia Erivo absolutely devoured her lines. Ariana Grande played that bimbo really well, and Ethan Slater was there. Why is the university called Shiz University? Like, I actually laughed out loud when I saw that. I went with a friend, and anytime it said Shiz University or showed Shiz University, I had to, like, cover my mouth. Because even though it was 2 months late, the theater was still packed. Like, there were still so many people. So I had to, like, be respectful and whatnot and, like, not talk during the movie or whatever or laugh at Shiz University. But that was hilarious. I did almost tear up a couple times. The same way that Cynthia did when people were holding space for Defying Gravity. I don't know what it is about musicals, but they make me, like, want to cry. Just music in general. Like, when I went and saw Come From Away, I was sitting in my seat, like, when I was watching this fucking Super Bowl the other day, when Kendrick came on stage and started singing, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Like, I don't know why I do that, but, like, anytime they would sing, and I just, like, I love layered vocals, so when, like, the part is, like, damn, that was crazy. Yeah, the music was really good. Good. I'm glad the music was good, because unlike one of the other musicals, the music was shit. Elphaba dancing with Glinda at the, like, is it the Osmos? No. Osmos. Oh my god. The Osgood? I don't remember. I couldn't understand what Jonathan Bailey was saying over him shoving his ass in the camera, but, I don't know, when they're at, like, the ball, and they're, like, wiping each other's tears and doing, like, I really liked that scene. That was my favorite scene of the whole movie. Enemies to Lovers, you've won me over. I just could not take the ending seriously. Like, it was a great ending to a movie, but Elphaba's cape just kept getting longer and longer while she was flying. And I just, like, at this point I was laughing, and I'm sorry for the people that were sitting around me, but it just kept getting longer, and then she did, like, the and it was, like, so long, and I was like, oh my god, this is overall, really good movie, and I cannot wait for Wicked 2. It'll be called Too Wicked. T-O-O Wicked. And I know that because I'm directing the next one.
Daddy? Do I look?
I almost forgot about this one because I didn't see it in theaters, but Ultraman Rising? Oh, that is how you make a kaiju movie.
Come to, Daddy.
I watched this movie on my birthday in a room full of adults, and we were all locked in. This movie was so entertaining. The animation was really good, and even though there wasn't that much fighting, which I know I've complained about for like 8 other movies, I didn't really mind. The bulk of the movie was just Ken Sato and his baby kaiju Emmy hanging out, and I liked it. I was still entertained. Maybe it was because I had something nice to look at, but whatever. I like that we didn't really have an origin story. I appreciate when a movie about a character that's been done time and time again doesn't put the origin story in there and instead gives more time for building the character. I really liked that because, you know, Ultraman has had a lot of, like, media, so they just dove head first. He's already Ultraman. He doesn't like it. He's a baseball player, and I'm like, yes! Thank God we don't have to waste time establishing this person. There was a love interest, too, and they didn't fall in love. Thank God, because that would have made the movie feel so rushed. There was still chemistry, but I'm glad they didn't get together because, like, there was the beginning of chemistry. Not enough for them to actually get together. So, I appreciated that. Even the villain wasn't, like, annoying. And a lot of times in animated movies, I'm like, oh, man, kill this guy already. And I know they won't kill him because it's a kid's movie, but, like, Jesus. He was driven to get rid of the kaijus because they killed his family. Ultraman was driven to keep the kaijus alive, but relocate them because they knew that, like, that's just how they had to live because they're part of, like, the natural ecosystem. And in the end, they found, like, the Mystery Island, and they left it on a cliffhanger. So, Ultraman 2, please. We'll call it 2 Ultraman, T-O-O Ultraman. yeah, it was a really good movie, and I really liked it. 2024 was actually a big year for animated movie fans with parental issues, because not only did we get this robot guy adopting a little baby and becoming a girl dad, we also had a robot adopting a little baby and becoming a boy mom. The Wild Robot. It was short, it was sweet, it made me cry, it was awesome. DreamWorks, like, never misses. DreamWorks rarely misses. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was amazing, and it also made me cry, because I missed my cat while I was watching it. But it was so well done, and that same beauty just carried over into The Wild Robot. It was so amazing. I found out the other day when I was flipping through the last book that Roz becomes a grandma. Oh my god, kill me now, I can't handle it. One thing I've really come to appreciate about kids' movies is the length. So many movies are so long now, and you know, I can handle it, but like, they just get the story done in like an hour 40. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I appreciate when a movie is short and sweet, and that's exactly what The Wild Robot was. I cried throughout the whole movie because the goose had mommy issues. I cried throughout the whole movie because the robot became a mom. Pedro Pascal was awesome, and I already know people are going to be head over heels for him. Add him to the holy trinity of canon that people are obsessed with. Lupita is the love of my life. She did amazing as Roz. Kit Connor had a really good American accent. He did good as Bright Bill. It was a straightforward yet enjoyable movie. It touched on topics that animated movies don't really touch on anymore. It got serious. It talked about at one point that the goose, Bright Bill, was probably going to die if Roz didn't save him. And there was still like a silly big fight at the end with all the animals against the robots. And I still enjoyed that. I enjoyed the silly fight. I feel like I'm being really contradictive? Contracting? I don't know what word I'm looking for. I'm going against everything I've been saying in this video every time I watch a new movie. I guess that's just the effect of watching a good movie. The score was also incredible. Like, it's up for best score at the Oscars, I think. It's in 3 different categories, I think, this year. Not just animated, which is awesome. DreamWorks, keep up the good work. Because, you know, you gotta pick up the slack for some other animation studios. Oh my god, an enjoyable biopic. Thank God nobody let Sam Taylor Johnson near Bob Marley. I am officially a biopic whore again. One Love was like, man, what's there not to love about Bob Marley? Kingsley Ben-Adir did an amazing job as Bob. That rhymed. And Lashana Lynch did equally amazing as Rita Marley. This biopic focused a lot more on music, which I really appreciated, because Back to Black didn't. But it also, like, still showed everything that Bob Marley, well, mostly everything that Bob Marley had to overcome to get to where he was in life. A lot of his life was shown. They just could have shown more. And I know that did make or break the movie for a lot of people, but I was perfectly content with the amount of life that was shown. There is a lot of shots of him running through a field as a kid, and the field's, like, lighting on fire. And this is supposed to represent, like, his disconnection from, like, his father and, like, abandonment and his, like, connection to Rastafarianism. But there was just so many shots of this kid. And it wasn't, like, glaringly obvious that this was, like, his abandonment and connection to Rastafarianism. I had to, like, Google it after. I was like, why is Bob Marley running through a field? Did this actually happen as a kid? Because that's kind of traumatizing. But it was just, like, a hidden message. So that was a little weird. I also appreciate that his family did help produce the movie. I mean, like, Mitch kind of helped with Back to Black, but why are we taking anything from him? Honestly, a lot of people didn't like this movie, but it was probably just the bomb-ass music that saved it for me, because I had a gay old time watching this. It could honestly just be the nostalgia that comes with Bob Marley, because my neighbors and I listened to him a lot growing up, so I had, like, a big connection to Bob Marley growing up. So it could honestly just be the nostalgia that made the music really good for me. But Kingsley and Lashana did amazing. Like, their acting definitely saved it if the plot was lacking. And the music was bomb. Bob Marley, more like Bomb Marley. Because that music is really good.
What a wonderful day!
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Who came up with that title? Sarah J. Maas? I know I said earlier that Godzilla x Kong was, like, meh, but I love me a good movie where monkeys can just, like, talk. This was my first introduction to Planet of the Apes, and I really liked it. I thought this movie was baller. I went home after and watched the rest of them, and lo and behold, they're all baller. The special effects were spectacular. Honestly, I don't think that the new Planet of the Apes movies get nearly enough hype. They're like Avatar, but monkeys. Dare I say it, the storyline for Planet of the Apes is better than Avatar. Look, we can only handle so many white savior storylines. I don't really know what else to say about this movie. Overall, I really enjoyed it. And it is definitely my favorite Planet of the Apes movie. Who up enjoying Doomed Yowie? Because I know I am. Transformers 1 fucked hard. Last summer or whenever it came out, I don't remember, I went and saw Transformers Rise of the Beast, and that shit was ass. That sucked, man. So I had, like, little hope going into it, and it was a kids movie, and I know all the animated movies that I've watched this year have been nothing but, like, amazing, but I wasn't expecting a lot. Not to mention, it was an origin story, and I know I've spent this whole video, like, shitting on origin stories, but, like, I really liked it. I thought it was well done. I was entertained. Did I laugh every time they said the word minors? Yes. But, you know, it's the little things in life that bring you joy. That's what my girl says, at least. The voice acting was also bomb. I wasn't expecting much because I'm not a huge fan of Chris Hemsworth, but he did really good. Like, really good. I really liked it. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where I actually liked him. But this movie was amazing. He did so good. Could we just, like, keep this man doing voice acting? I know he's got a pretty face, but, like, he did really, really good. This movie single-handedly made me a Transformers fan again. Like, I used to be a massive Transformers fan as a kid, and then they high-key fell off. But this is, like, gotta be my new favorite Transformers movie. How Inside Out 2 is up for an Oscars nomination over this, I don't know. But in my heart, they won.
My TV glow, my TV glow, my TV glow, my TV glow.
I saw the TV glow made me feel sick to my fucking stomach. I almost cried myself to sleep, but I didn't because I was at a friend's house. And then I went into a depressive episode for 2 weeks. This movie just kept going, and I was not mad about it. Every time I thought this movie was going to end, it just kept going, and kept going, and kept going. And I was, like, sitting there the whole time, like, I was locked in. This movie was crazy. It was like the anti-coming of age. Owen, played by Justin Smith, won't follow the pink opaque, which I think is supposed to be, like, a metaphor for transitioning, whereas Maddie, played by Jack Haven, does follow it. Had this been a regular coming-of-age movie, maybe Owen would have followed the pink opaque and then, like, transitioned, and it would have ended happily and wouldn't have scared everybody out of the closet. I genuinely don't think I can get across just how uncomfortable this movie made me feel, but, like, in a good way. While watching, I was like, how is this supposed to be an allegory for being trans? But at the same time, how is this supposed to be interpreted any other way? Maddie breaks free from the cycle they were raised in and ultimately finds himself, while Owen doesn't break free and then, like, crashes out. Closer to the end of the movie, Owen reflects on how the pink opaque felt profound to him as a child, but now that he's older, it feels childish, and this sort of mirrors transitioning. In the moment, transitioning feels like a life or death experience. For those like Owen that never truly found themselves, it may feel childish or naive. I feel like this part kind of resonates with people that may have had to detransition for some reason and may look back on it with a sense of, like, nostalgia and longing. You know, when people joke about how they would use they, them pronouns, but they have to go to work on Monday. Like, it reminds me of, on TikTok, I saw people talking, and they'd be like, oh, I missed my 2020 stage where I would watch Stream SMP and use, like, different pronouns, or I transitioned in 2020 when it was, like, trending, and now I kind of miss it. And how, like, people felt like they could find themselves in 2020 because a lot less people were judging, but then once we had to go back to, like, being with other people, they were like, okay, I can't experiment anymore because I'm in the real world and I miss it. So I feel like it kind of resonates with that. I really think that's the beauty of I Saw the TV Glow, though, because they never actually label anything, which means that the movie can be interpreted any way the viewer wants to interpret it. You know, you've got horror as a representation of gender dysphoria, Owen as a representation of repression, Maddie's a representation of freedom, the pink opaque is both sort of gender identity but also the media playing part in helping people explore their identity, and then aging and feeling trapped. This movie, no matter how it's interpreted, is poetic as fuck. Every time somebody's like, oh, I interpret it this way, I interpret it this way, I interpret it this way, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, yeah you did, oh my god, you cooked with that. I highly recommend watching this movie, but you definitely have to be in a good headspace to watch it, because I was like halfway to a crash out when watching this, and I Saw the TV Glow just kind of acted like a Viagra of sorts.
Gwen! No, please, please!
You guys already know it. We Live in Time made me drop out, and I have no regrets. Andrew Garfield's a DILF, his blonde love interest dies, you know, you win some, you lose some. I'm not usually a fan of time jumping in a movie, but I think they did it pretty well, and like I saw the TV Glow, I was halfway to a crash out, and this movie was a Viagra. The movie wasn't even, like, that monumental. Like, it had a really good monologue from Florence Pugh, and it didn't get any nominations for awards, which I'm not mad or surprised about. But like The Fall Guy being like an airplane movie, this kind of just feels like a movie you'd rent in a hotel room. Ultimately, the movie did really get me thinking about life and death, which I think about a lot. I used to like freak out about death as a child, and cancer, which I've lost a lot of family members to cancer, and it made me realize like I don't want to waste my life. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy it, and I'm enjoying it. And you know what I haven't done since watching this movie? Crash the fuck out. Guys, go watch We Live in Time and drop out. You will not regret it. You'll feel great. I've had to dig back into the vaults in therapy lately because I've been feeling absolutely dandy since seeing this movie, and it is all thanks to Florence Pugh dying.
Bob Dylan! Bob Dylan! Okay! Dylan!
Bob Dylan! I watched this movie, and it was like, meh, whatever. I didn't care. And then I went to bed, and I woke up. I felt like a changed person. I didn't wake up with morning wood. I woke up with morning Woody Guthrie, man. Oh my god. I'm a changed person. I'm obsessed. All I listened to for days after it was the soundtrack, and Bob Dylan, and Joan Baez, and I made my brother watch Nardwuar versus Timothy Chalamet. I made him watch Statistics. I made him watch the, his high school talent show video, and then whatever the fuck this is. Man, he doomed too much. And then I forced my mom to watch Nardwuar versus Timothy Chalamet.
Milk Duds. I rip Milk Duds. I'm talking 12 at a time. Chew, chew, chew. Suck the chocolate out. Soak in the caramel.
And then I actually forced my mom and grandma to go and watch the movie with me again in theaters. We went to like a 3 o'clock showing, and I think everybody from the old home also had the same idea because I walked in there, 10 other people, all like 80. I'm not complaining though. They fuck with the movie as much as I did. I started like, bopping my head at one point because I was like, yeah, man. And I looked down. One of them was doing it too. We were connected. Say what you want. I think Timothy Chalamet did a really good job as Bob Dylan. I didn't really realize how much they looked like each other till I saw the movie, and I think the nose prosthetic really helped. The only other person that I can think of that would kind of look like Bob Dylan is Finn Wolfhard. Maybe Andrew Barth Feldman or Dominic Sessa, but I think Timothy did a really good job. He sounded amazing when I could actually understand what he was saying, and his singing was great. I know I'm going to mispronounce this, and I should have Googled it before filming this, but Monica Barbaro, I don't know, I'm sorry, did a really good job as Joan. I think she did amazing. I do kind of wish that they gave her a nose prosthetic, though, because Monica has a really nice nose, but to me, Joan has such a distinct nose. Like, a lot of her album covers have, her side profile, which is, I don't know, her nose. Maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I'm just, too big into noses or something. I don't know. Sit on it. Speaking of Joan, Timothy had, more chemistry with every man individually in this film than all 3 of his female love interests combined. And I was going to say, can you blame him? But no, because everybody in this movie was fucking gorgeous. Elle Fanning, oh my god. She was so well-spoken. I feel like she spoke so clearly, but also so did everybody else when they were in a scene with Timothy. And she just, her character was incredible. I loved her character. But I also had my problems with her character. Elle plays a character named Sylvia Russo, who's supposed to be, one of Bob Dylan's, earlier girlfriends, Susie something. But she wasn't, big into stardom, so they didn't really include her. They gave her a different name. Elle did a good job regardless of who it was she was playing. She was Bob Dylan's first sort of serious girlfriend, and she was an artist and big into the civil rights movement, and that's sort of where Bob started getting involved because she would teach him about it and bring him to rallies and stuff. She was such a powerful figure and character. I felt like she was a strong character, but then anytime she was in a scene where Bob and Joan were together, I got a jealous vibe from her, which rightfully so, because Bob Dylan was cheating on her with Joan. But I'm just a big hater of jealousy. I think jealousy is really ugly. So whenever she would see them together and she would just kind of I would do the same thing because I'd be like, oh man, I hate that. Like, it was like the realization, which is good, you know, realizing that like he wasn't good for her. But then like at one point they're at Woodstock and he's singing It Ain't Me Babe, which, like, side note, bomb ass song, but also he's like the anti-Hozier. Like, all of Hozier's songs are like, I love you, darling, I love you, baby, I'm good for you, you're good for me. Bob Dylan's like, man, I'm terrible and you shouldn't date me. And they still slap. Anyways, so him and Joan are singing It Ain't Me Babe at Woodstock. And this was after him and Sylvie had broken up, and he went and like picked her up on his motorcycle because he's all sporadic and chill like that. And so they go to Woodstock, they're having fun, and then she's behind the stage watching the performance, and they're singing together, and like you could like sense the chemistry between Joan and Bob, even though Joan is like, fuck you, Bob, I hate you, because he treats people terribly, unless you're a man. So Sylvie like witnesses this, and then she starts crying and runs off. And I hate when characters run off, man. Like, I really, like, I don't know what it is, but she was just like, like, oh my god, stop it. You're such a strong character. Talk through it. Talk to her. So then, like, he goes and finds her when she's getting on a ferry. And this scene was really, cute, I guess, because they're talking through a gate. Or like a fence, and he's like, no, Sylvie, come back with me. And she's like, I can't, Bob. You know, the circus and whatnot, because he used to work for the circus. She's like, I feel like, you know, the like guy that balances plates on, like spinning plates on sticks. And he's like, yeah, I like that. She's like, yeah, well, you don't like it when you run to the plates, Bob. And I was like, period. So she leaves, and I'm glad she did, because Bob wasn't good for her. But I didn't like that she ran off. It kind of just ruined it for me. But regardless, really liked her character. Love Elle Fanning. I also really like Bobby. Not just this Bobby. Bobby Newworth. When he came on stage, oh, brother. He kind of looked like this guy I saw on Hinge once, and I fucked with it heavy. So was Bob, apparently. He dropped his new girl, Becca, who, oh my god, was stunning. So he could go make music with this guy that he met in an elevator. You're gay, Bob. The cigarette budget, too, like, can we talk about that? Everybody was smoking. Everybody talking about this movie, they're like, man, I went at that movie and I came out with a cigarette in my mouth. The only other thing I've seen with a higher cigarette budget was my 10th grade science project. The scene where he lit Sylvie's cigarette in his mouth and, like, gave it to her, they went to see a movie, and in the movie, I don't remember what the movie was, the guy put 2 cigarettes in his mouth, lit them both, and then gave them one to the girl. And like, people say chivalry is dead. So when Bob picks Sylvie up to take her to Woodstock, and he like, they're chilling, he lights the cigarette, and I was like, oh my god, no way you just did that. Like, I actually, like, the first time I watched the movie, and I was like, this shit's ass. I saw that and I was like, oh my god. I felt like my heart squeezed a little bit. Felt like the Grinch. My heart grew like 69 sizes too big. Overall, very good biopic about Bob Dylan's rise to fame and his folk music crash out. Shout out Timothée Chalamet for being my white boy of the month.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
If you as well are looking for a new white boy of the month, Saturday Night is the movie for you. We've got Gabriel LaBelle. We've got Corey Michael Smith. We've got Cooper Hoffman, Dylan O'Brien, Andrew Barth Feldman, Finn Wolfhard. I'm looking at you, Gracie Abrams. This movie had me edging in my seat the whole time. This movie had me edging my seat the whole time. The music was loud, but not like Hallmark level movies loud. Like, it was just loud enough that I was slightly uncomfortable, but also it like perfectly encapsulated the anxiety that they're feeling about going on air. Like, it's just like, oh my god, it was amazing. And like, they had it broken down into segments, kind of, and they show how many minutes left until they went on air, which I thought was great, because I always get antsy when I'm watching a movie, as you could tell, but I also hate checking my phone, and, like, people on their phone in the movie theater, biggest pet peeve. So, I love that they'd be like, oh, 30 minutes till we're on air, and I'm like, shit, man, like, 30 minutes till we leave, awesome. But once we got to the 30 minutes, I wanted the movie to keep going. I really wish they would have aired, like, recreated the first ever SNL. I was sad. I would have watched that whole thing. And I know they're re-airing it this coming Saturday for the 50th anniversary. But, like, oh my god, the movie was amazing. The actors were all so talented, too. Like, some of these guys I had never seen in a movie before, and they ate. Rachel Sennett, like, Oh my god, don't even get me started. The movie really reminded me of when I was in high school because we had our own sort of production going on, and it just like, it was like that, but on crack. And I was watching it, and I was like, man, I miss like performing under pressure. SNL, if you need somebody to work for you, you can underpay me and treat me really bad like they do on other late night shows, and I won't even sue you. Please hire me. I know it's likely that this movie was just being released because it's like 50 years of SNL, but like I could feel the work and the love that went into this, and like all the actors put their pussies into this movie. Like I genuinely can't say it enough. It was like everybody was so talented. This movie was amazing. It was like perfect SNL propaganda. Get a propaganda your tits. Propaganda. Jesus Christ. SNL propaganda. Thank you. I went home that night and immediately watched SNL, and it was the one with Chappell Roan and John Mulaney and Kamala Harris. It was a crazy one. I missed the Charlie XCX one and the Timothy Chalamet one, which made me really sad. But I'm planning on watching the big one that's coming out on Sunday. We got Pedro Pascal, Miley Cyrus. Saturday night was honestly just like a blast to watch, and I absolutely blasted in my jeans while watching it. So I would highly recommend it for anybody, even if you're an SNL fan or not.
There are 206 bones in the human body. 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl.
I saw Deadpool and Wolverine 4 times, and I was disappointed each time when there was no sweaty gay butt sex scene. Part of me is embarrassed for having this movie like so high. But honestly, are we that surprised? Like, man, I love Marvel. It would be weird if it wasn't that high. They said fuck like 118 times or something. That's a lot. And that's coming from me. I love the word fuck.
I do cuss a little.
Do you?
Also, yeah.
What's your favorite curse word?
Probably fuck.
Honestly, it felt rejuvenating to see a good Marvel movie again. Captain America, I think it'll be alright.
I liked Captain America.
I'm gonna go see it this week. Crossing my fingers. Thunderbolts. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Fantastic Four. Just saw the trailer. Oh my god. Oh my god. Marvel is so back, man. And I hope they stay back, because this was fire. This movie was honestly, it was just like a good old-fashioned bloody action movie. It was exactly what I was looking for out of Godzilla x Kong. But it was also silly, but like silly in a way that they were like, haha, I'm gonna say fuck and you guys are gonna laugh. And then I did laugh. They got me. And like all the cameos, I finished X-Men 97, like a week before, and I was high on Gambit. I was like, oh my god, I love Gambit. And then I watched all the X-Men movies. Gambit, still love you. And then they brought Gambit out, and I was like in my seat like, oh my god, guys, I know that guy. And they just like all the cameos, I know there's probably just like, man, last ditch effort, we gotta put all these people in that people like so that they'll come see the movie. It worked. I loved this movie. I have no clue what else to say. It was just so fun. Why is it so hard to talk about movies that I like? Like, I've been going on tangents about the movies that I hate, but like, good movie. This movie, honestly, it's in number 2, but I do think it was the best movie I saw this year. From the very first scene, I knew that Sing Sing was going to be beautiful. The grainy and somewhat shaky camera work was an immediate giveaway that this movie was going to be art. Sing Sing is based on the RTA Rehabilitation Through Art program that's run at Sing Sing Maximum Prison in New York. And like 85% of the cast was made up of people that had been in the RTA program at Sing Sing. Coleman Domingo was absolutely amazing as his role as John Whitfield, or Divine G. John Whitfield was a big part of leading RTA while he was incarcerated for a crime that he didn't commit. We don't really know much about the crime, or honestly any other crime in this movie, and I really appreciated that. So many prison movies are so dehumanizing towards incarcerated, and so I feel like by not showing us what these people were put in prison for, it sort of gets rid of the pre-existing bias that we might have towards their characters. What really stood out to me as well was how warm all of the scenes felt. I'm going to show you the first couple minutes of Craven, because that's a prison scene next to the trailer for Sing Sing, so you can kind of understand what I mean.
To die. To sleep. To dream.
This is a clemency hearing for your conviction, 25 to life. Since you've been in custody, you've been involved in a theater program.
Gentlemen, let's go.
It's been a program that was established to help people get more in touch with their feelings and truly get some rehabilitation.
I am Gladiator Goliath. I am Spartacus. I'm Prince Hamlet of Denmark.
And it's turned into something, I don't know, wonderful.
What part do you play?
From time to time, I do act, like we all do.
So are you acting at all during this interview?
We here to become human again and enjoy the things that is not in our reality.
I think you guys are becoming real with each other, vulnerable.
Listen, I already know what you're doing, know who you are, what you about, bro.
What?
You don't get to tell me what I need in prison. You don't get to do that. And don't bring me in those dark corners no more.
The world expects brothers like you and I to walk in with our heads held down. Nah, what you gotta walk in like a king. Everything is yours.
I'm Divine now.
Yeah.
This is my theater.
Now give him some love, give him some love.
Go to your most perfect spot. Do you hear anything? Are you with somebody? Are you outside? Hold that feeling.
You gotta admit that I murdered that Hamlet, bro. Shakespeare is in his grave right now. He rolled over.
You did your thing, beloved.
Now, I know that Craven and Sing Sing are drastically different movies, but Craven, like so many other prison movies, light prisons in a way that make them feel so cold and inhumane. Character cells as well are decorated and like full of belongings, something I had never seen in a prison movie before. And at one point, a guard comes in and sort of tears apart Divine G's room to do like a search. And from that point in the movie, I just couldn't stop crying. Like, I was full on tears from that point onward. Divine G is absolutely patient and loving throughout the whole movie, and so are so many of the other characters. Mike was, oh my god, I loved him, and then he died. His character died, and I was like, oh my god. And then I started crying again, not just because he died, but because of the way that like his death was handled. Like, the guards were so dehumanizing when they were cleaning out his room. They were talking to each other and just like tearing shit down. Like, the movie subtly called out the fucked up prison system so many times, while also at other points not so subtly doing it, and it was just amazing. There were multiple times during this movie that I actually had to pause it and write down quotes. Like, I never do that for movies, but they would say something, I'd be like, man, that hit. Like, hold on, what were they? Dying is easy, comedy is hard, and anger is the easiest thing to play. And I'm not like, ugh, dying is easy, comedy is hard. Like, as a writer, yeah, man, it is so hard to write comedy, and like, anger is like, yeah, it's easy to act, whatever. Like, I don't know, those really spoke to me. I really liked those lines. Don't even get me started on the whole beloved thing.
This shit make a nigga nervous, you heard?
We don't use nigga in here. We use beloved.
I wouldn't even be here without you, beloved. Thank you for everything.
You did your thing, beloved.
Yes, I did, beloved.
I spent the second half of this movie just non-stop crying. Clarence Macklin, or McLean, sorry, I should have Googled that too. Or also known as Divine Eye, is the guy that you saw in those scenes that I just showed with Divine G. He played a major part in this movie. He was a new recruit to the RTA, and at the beginning he's really hesitant, shy, trying to keep up this like sort of tough guy facade. He said multiple times that he felt like he belonged in prison and was trying to uphold this status that so many people had thrusted upon him. But throughout the movie, that status and mold that he was put in sort of crumbles, and he becomes this whole new person, and it was absolutely beautiful. I loved the growth and progression of his character. It, like, oh my god, it hurt my heart. The movie returned to theaters in January and was simultaneously made available to almost 1 million incarcerated people, and I think that is amazing. If you could watch one movie from my whole list, it is this one. Like, You have to check out this movie. It was amazing. It was genuinely, I think, the best movie this year. I know Sing Sing was the best movie, but you guys know Challengers was my favorite movie. That shit was gay as fuck, man. Now I know how I was with Barbie, but this is different, alright? This time's different. I don't care that it didn't get any Oscar nominations. I'm not even surprised. This movie's too fun for the Oscars. Mike Face, the man that you are. Josh O'Connor, the man that you are. Zendaya, the woman that you are. Appling, the cunty umpire, and the stranger in Spider-Man No Way Home that asked MJ if she was having Peter's spider babies. I love you. Even my Pinterest somehow knows that I'm obsessed with Challengers, and their algorithm makes no sense to me. Challenger stuff just kind of showed up one day and won't go away. So now instead of getting cool houses, Temu underwear, like a lot of Temu underwear, and a strange amount of Cillian Murphy on my feed, I get cool houses, Cillian Murphy, whatever this thing is, and Challengers. I also saved something I thought was funny that was like slightly very sexual, and now I get shit like this on my feed. Anyway, speaking of pieces throbbing, after I got out of Challengers, rock hard might I add, I felt like a changed person. Challengers made me play tennis and be gay for a week. It somehow made me like Twinks more. It made me want to kiss my best friend and her boyfriend at the same time. Listen, both of them came to see the movie with me, and she sat in the middle. That's basically asking me to recreate the makeout scene. The first thing I did on New Year's was watch the makeout scene. That's a lie. The first thing I did on New Year's was the Wordle. The second thing I did was watch the makeout scene. The cinematography, the soundtrack, the makeout scene. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet. Absolutely amazing. My one beef with this movie was the music was really loud, but that seems to just be my beef with every movie. I also really enjoyed watching a movie where Zendaya played an adult and not a teenager. I think this genuinely might be the first and only movie I've ever seen where Zendaya is old enough to be a mom. But yeah, Challengers are so fun, and it just is the most perfect campy pop culture summer movie. Like Bratz Summer, Challengers Summer, man, I'm never gonna get to experience that high again. It was my favorite movie of 2024. No regrets. Overall, I really did like a lot of the movies this year, much more than the movies in 2023, and I'm so excited to see what 2025 has to hold. Blind Cop 2, Velocipaster 2. Ignore what I said earlier about sequels. I'm so excited for them. And Blind Cop 2 isn't even technically a sequel. Feel free to share with me what your favorite or least favorite movie was of 2024 or anything that you think I need to watch. Someone told me a while ago to watch, Spider-Geddon or something. It's like spiders and volcanoes. Awesome. I love movie recommendations. I love movies, and I cannot wait to talk about the Oscars in my next video. Love you guys. Bye.